Recently, a friend that I have on Facebook that I've emailed a number of times, but I'm not sure I ever met, Matthew Roberts, told a brief synopsis of the story of Walter Gassler. Gassler was born in Switzerland, and he was brought over here as a young child, and at an early age became a chef. And at the time of our story, he was a chef at the Biltmore Hotel in Phoenix. Due to the publicity that the Adolf Ruth story got in 1931, Gassler became interested in searching for the Lost Dutchman mine. And around May every year, he would go out into the superstitions seeking the Lost Dutchman mine. Now, he became friends with Tex Barkley and Barkley's wife out at the Quarter Circle U Ranch. And he often brought pastries out for Mrs. Barkley and exchanged recipes with her. And both of them really liked Mr. Gassler, and they were very concerned about him going into the mountains alone. But it was to no avail, because Gassler was a very private individual. He never shared anything. He always went along. He never had a partner. And he searched for the Lost Dutchman mine for the better part of 50 years. Now, he became friends somewhere along the line with Robert Corbin, the Attorney General of Arizona, who is also a Dutch hunter, and his friend, Tom Kollerborn. And he met with Mr. Corbin one time in Mr. Corbin's office, and she left a manuscript with him and a map. And that was shared with Tom Kollerborn. Well, he had a hunch that the Dutchman was locating himself on Peter's Mesa in the Superstition, which is close to Charlie Boy Springs and Music Mountain, and just across from Bluff Springs Mountain, and not too far from Blacktop Mesa, one of the central areas out there of the search for the Lost Dutchman mine. And he spent all these years looking in the Peters Mesa area. Well, in 1983 or 84, he approached Tom and Mr. Corbin on the telephone to go into the mountains with him. He was absolutely certain that he had found the mine, and he had some specimens to go along with it as proof. But Corbin and Tom both could not go with him at that particular time. It was too late in the evening on a Sunday. Tom had school the next day, and Mr. Corbin was extremely busy, so his wife took him in. And on his way out, after spending some days in the mountains, he was found dead along the trail. Some people found him. Don Shade was one of them, and they left him there and come out and notified the authorities. And the sheriff's department come and retrieved the body and a backpack that had ore in it. But somehow, while in the custody of the sheriff's office, the ore samples disappeared. And as far as we know, they've been disappeared to this very day. Well, you know, I had a small part to play in this affair. I got a phone call one night about 10 o'clock from Tom Kollerborn asking me to come over. This was not an unusual thing. There were times where, I remember one time at 11 o'clock at night, Tom called me up and says, "You want to go on an adventure?" I said, "Sounds like something to do." He says, "Well, be sure and strap your gun on." Well, we've got a video of the first Dutchman rendezvous that you can watch that explains this whole story. So it wasn't unusual for Tom to call me up at any given moment on the spur of the moment to go do something. So I went over, and here were two cameramen with a camera on a tripod, and they briefly explained what they wanted me to do, and we went through it without any rehearsal, with no more information than what they told me, and we done it in one take. And this was the crew from Unsolved Mysteries that was doing a story on the Walter Gassler story. And you know, I never met a more professional bunch of people in my whole life. These two men were absolutely no-nonsense as serious a heart attack type of guys, and they knew their job and they did it well. But there again, to this very day, the mystery of that missing ore has been unsolved. Now, the part I played was an imposter. I imposed myself as being Walt Gassler's son, and I was there to get the manuscript and the map from Tom Kollerborn. I showed Tom a sample of the ore, obviously that came out of that backpack, and asked Tom for the manuscript and the map, and he readily gave me the manuscript, but of course he no longer had the map. It was evidently back in the hands of Bob Corbin. Well, it was an interesting thing to do, and I enjoyed it very much. Now, after Tom surrendered the information to Mr. Gassler's son, sometime later, Tom was giving a class at the Apache Junction High School called Prospecting the Superstition, which I had attended twice. And another man come up and introduced himself as Walt Gassler's son. And Tom says, "Wow, I sure have met a lot of Walt Gassler's sons lately. I ought to ask for some ID." So the man produced a driver's license that showed he was Walt Gassler's son. An interesting sidebar to this is that this story of Walt Gassler and the Lost Dutchman gold mine was very, very popular on Unsolved Mysteries and drew more views and comments than any other program they ever produced. Well, not too long after this, after he passed away, Bob Corbin and Tom made an attempt to go into Peters Mesa and search for his campsite. And they spent a day and a half looking. They went in from Quarter Circle U Ranch, which was about 12 miles to Peters Mesa, and spent the night and part of the next morning searching, and came up with absolutely nothing. And Mr. Corbin went back in again in 2012 with some other people, and nothing was found. It seems indicative to me that a person as secretive as Walt Gassler was, that yeah, he would put a camp where nobody would find it. And what was it that drove this man to spend 50 years looking for the Lost Dutchman mine? What did he find anything that spurred his interest on going in there alone all those years? All we know is the sample of gold that was shown to Tom by the imposter, which had a nice streak of gold in it, as you can see on this video. I don't know. He seemed to think that Jacob Waltz came in on the north side of the river and came up Peters Canyon on Tortilla Creek, which is a rough way to go in, past Geronimo's Head to get to Peters Mesa. But I can't imagine. I can't imagine just, well, what can I say? It's just another mystery of the Superstition Mountain.
Thank you for watching this episode of Mysteries of the Superstition Mountains.